spots the pen, sees the flare come up through, you know, and the helicopter comes hovering over, and they drop down through the jungle, which is known as a penetrator. It's just a rope string, okay, and usually can put 4 people in one. In each string, there's 4 separate strings, and each one of them has a seat in it with a wrist strap where you put your wrist through it in case you fell out of it. Then your wrist would hold you, okay. So the other thing was 3 of our indigs ran on us. They left us there by ourselves. So I had my interpreter and my wounded team leader and myself. So you know, after a half-hour running and you know, talking to the helicopter, we finally they dropped these penetrators down and they lifted us out through the jungle. And, you know, they fly you off for half hour or so until they got a secured area. Kind of a neat ride.
Right.
hanging from a rope on the bottom of a helicopter doing about 90 miles an hour, you know. And they finally set us down, and that was Henry Buck.
Okay.
He was a Louisiana boy, good guy, and he was evacuated back to the United States. And I went on a couple more missions after that, kind of uneventful, some BDAs, bomb damage assessments, okay.
Right.
A couple of them, we were on the ground and out of there. I mean, sometimes you don't get far.
Right.
You know, at one time, once the, you know, I mean, there's a great history about. Our organization was called SOG. I didn't mention that. CNC detachment was SOG.
Right.
Okay. It was an acronym for Studies and Observation Group.
Right.
At one time, it was Special Operations Group, but they decided that wasn't a good term to be used in special operations, so they changed it to the Studies and Observation Group. Okay, and that was SOG. Okay, some great history about SOG, you know, and all these guys, and what we did and where we went, and the things, you know, Laos, Cambodia, North Vietnam, you know, Black Ops, all kinds of stuff. You know, it was great stuff. I wasn't involved in all of it. You know, a couple people back when Henry got wounded, we were looking for a suspected POW camp.
Okay.
He had given us some coordinates, and he said we had some reports of some Americans, you know, in this particular area, you know.
Right.
So we were on the ground. We weren't on the ground very long, but they used to, you know, the NVA was very aware of us getting in there. We had a lot of interesting tactics to try to get in, you know, into trying to find landing areas and stuff like that. And then at one time they were doing halo jumps at night. If you know what a halo is, a high altitude low opening. You know, guys would parachute in and during the dark, and then open up their parachutes and come through the jungle. Terrible operation. You know, I mean, just a lot of real interesting, neat stuff that that this organization did. All top secret crap. You know, we infiltrated people in North Vietnam and this Cambodian Laos. And like I said, afterwards, you know, I was a young kid. You know, I was told what I was doing what I was supposed to do, and I was, you know, I was gung ho. I thought it was cool.
And you're still around 22,
you know?
something like that.
Yeah, I think I got out when I was 22. You know? And you know, it just, I'm done. I'm out. You know, I thought about going back in, staying in. You know, but like I said, I was worried. My wife said, you know what? You know, maybe consider, you know. Not making a military career, you know. And I, you know, could have died a few times, you know. And I thought, well, maybe it's not a bad idea. So, you know, I left it all behind me. And like I said, in 1995, this guy Charles Berg called me. But I was doing some treatment. You know, I've been diagnosed with some PTSD, so I was being treated, and my counselor suggested that I join the Khe Sanh Veterans, because you know, when you talk about Khe Sanh, anybody knows about Khe Sanh, it was probably a very high percentage of those guys are all PTSD. You know, it's just pretty traumatic, living through a bunch of bombarding and seeing the devastation that we did and stuff like that. So, out of the blue, he calls me one night. He's at the Khe Sanh Veterans Reunion in Philadelphia, and I had joined it, and he saw my name on the roster as a new person, and he called me on the telephone. He says, "This is Bob Stranger." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Bob, this is Charlie Berg." I goes, "Charlie Berg?" And he must have thought I didn't recognize the name, but I knew exactly who it was, you know. And we hit it off real good right away. You know?
Great.
And And I said, well, I can't come to Case on Veterans. And he said, well, you know what? He said, we have our own organization. It's called the Special Operations Association. And that's what this insignia is here.
Okay.
That's our logo. Okay.
Right.
Special Ops. And
Right.
a lot of SALT guys did this. So he said, man, you got to come out to Vegas. We have a reunion here every year. So in 1995, I started going out to Vegas, and every year see somebody new.
Good.
You know,
Good.
a lot of name dropping, and
Right.
just a fantastic to be able to connect with all these old guys. You know,
Right.
I want old guys. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Guys you served with.
Guys
you
you
know.
served with.
You know.
Let me ask a question. That is your SOG patch there, right?
Yeah.
But what's that on your other one on your jacket? You got three.
Yeah. This is actually just a duplicate of that. Okay. This is the 5th group. This is the flash. This is the flash. That if you were in Vietnam and wore your beret, or allowed to wear your beret, or even when you came back, you wore the 5th flash.
Right.
6th flash was my first duty assignment. 5th group, and then while I was in Vietnam, I was still part of the 5th Special Forces, but I was in MACV SOG.
Okay.
Okay. MACV was Military Assistance Command Vietnam.
Right.
Studies and observation group.
Okay. Let me sort of because I hate to keep the gentleman waiting that we had and
Okay. Yeah, we're probably only supposed to do an hour, right?
Well,
we've been at it 2 hours.
Well, you got a good story here. Well, let me just ask, and you can just be as succinct as you can. So your wartime experience, how did that affect your life? Your wartime experience.
Well, I guess I can say it was good and bad. I'm so proud of what I did and where I went, the people that I met. It's caused some adversities in my life. You know, like I said, I had the PTSD and being Special Forces. I hate to say it, I'm not the doctor doing the diagnosing, but we don't like to admit, we're supposed to be some badass guys, Special Forces, So we don't want to talk about us being, not well adjusted, so to speak, yeah, and I don't have PTSD. I mean, this is the same thing that goes on with these young guys nowadays. Yeah. Absolutely. These guys they got it, but they don't want to, don't want to admit it because they don't want their fellow soldiers to think that they're not all together. And it's a tough condition, okay? And you live with it for a long time, and I don't want to say that, I probably obviously did some things that I regret, with my wife and my kids and stuff like that. I wasn't maybe as good a father as I would have liked to have been or should have been, So we try to make up for it now. It's a great experience. And like I said, I'm so proud of it, and all these guys that I meet. Like I said, the negative side is, what's across the family and stuff.
Were there any life lessons that you learned from the military?
Life's
lessons? Like as far as punctuality, responsibility.
Oh, absolutely.
And all that.
Oh, absolutely.
Those things.
I mean, I guess it's probably, I got a son. My youngest one is in the military, right? But he's in a reservist. He surprised me about 7-8 years ago. And said, he said, Dad, I'm going to join the reserves. And I said, wow.
Okay.
And he was 26 years old.
Oh, okay.
But he, both my boys are very, very well adjusted. They're sharp. They're intelligent. They were well disciplined. Probably more disciplined than I was. I would imagine when I was growing up. But. Yeah, you learn some character things from being in the military. Absolutely. And I can see that in my youngest one, who's a soldier now.
Going in at an early age, they sort of caught you at that learnable stage of your life where you were.
The other thing was, I think each generation is different, and you grew up that, and you know how your grandparents were, and your fathers were, and their responsibility in life, and how their structure was, and how, and then it changes from generation to generation, and it's changing again, So my dad was a disciplinarian, and he made sure that I toed the line, and I did toe the line. And when I got into the military, it wasn't nothing but that was our generation, other than the ones that were the draft dodgers and, were against the war type, That's when the generations started changing and stuff, so, the different mentalities type thing. So, but that's where, I can say I was pretty structured.
Sure. Okay, Bob, well, I think you gave us a good